What is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be going over the topic of NFL bell cow running backs in terms of 2022 fantasy football. We'll begin today's video by defining what a bell cow running back is, and then we'll be pivoting into the history of the bell cow running back in the NFL, and then we'll close out today's video. The main topic of today's video is discussing the bell cow running backs in the NFL, both as what you would describe a normal bell cow running back as well as what you would consider a bell cow running back if you baked in the factor of the receiving work that the running back gets in, and if they were able to add the rushes plus the receptions, then that would make them a bell cow running back. But before we can get into this bell cow running back discussion, I would like to ask, if you are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, to please make sure that you do hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure that you leave a like on today's video. It would help us out a ton. And if you would like to follow me on Twitter, please do so at NotoriousFNTSY. So without further ado, let's get into this bell cow running back discussion. So we'll begin with the definition. What is a bell cow running back, you may ask? A bell cow running back is a term that, at least to me, means different things to different people. But as a whole, a bell cow running back is a running back who are able to take on a very large, a very heavy workload in the offense and still be very successful while given a high amount of touches. While many people may consider a bell cow running back to just be a running back who gets a boatload of carries, in my opinion, I think that reception should be baked into that equation, which is why I use the term touches, because a touch is a reception or just a rushing opportunity, whereas a rush is obviously just a rushing opportunity. So again, most people would probably say a bell cow running back is just a running back that just gets a shit ton of rushes, but to me, I do think you should bake the receiving aspect into the definition, which is why, like I said at the beginning of the video, we'll be discussing the running backs that really are bell cow running backs, not to most, but to me, because they see so much receiving work. So in the NFL history, prior to around the middle of the 2000s era, we have seen bell cow running backs be very prevalent in the NFL. Names that come to mind when you think of a bell cow running back. Now, some people may say other names, but to me, I'm thinking LT, LaDainian Tomlinson, Barry Sanders, Walter Payton, Emmitt Smith, everyone's favorite NFL running back, O.J. Simpson. There are just a lot of names that you may consider with the term bell cow, but to me, those are just a couple of names. So when you're looking at the numbers in terms of bell cow running backs, you can see a humongous decline, a very clear decline starting in 2006, where on average the carries of a top 15 running back in the NFL was starting at 320 in 2006. So top 15 running backs were averaging 320 carries on the season, and in 2020, 2 years ago, is below 240. So how much lower can this number go? That's not quite clear, right? I'm not from the fucking future, right? I'm obviously from a year in the future. You could look at the 2021 numbers, but I think by the time we are looking at maybe 2030, 2032, that the number isn't going to get much lower than 240. Maybe it'll get to around the 200 number, but I don't think it's ever going to become where every team is utilizing the running back by committee system, which is more popular now. It used to be everyone's got that bell cow running back. They got that main guy. Now a lot of teams use the running back by committee. There are still going to be teams in the NFL, I believe 10, 12 years from now, that are still using the bell cow running back, a Christian McCaffrey, a Derrick Henry like running back who is seeing a million fucking touches every single game. But it is definitely a lost art in the NFL now when comparing from the early 2000s all the way to now 20 years ago, 21 years ago, 22 years ago, where we are now in 2022. So the bell cow running backs today, in my opinion, I will go over a list and then we will discuss each of these running backs in depth. So this is just for what a bell cow running back is, meaning a running back that gets a bunch of touches, and then later on in the video, we'll discuss what a bell cow running back really is, in my opinion, when you add in the receiving upside of the running back. So we'll begin with Jonathan Taylor, then move into Derrick Henry, Najee Harris, Christian McCaffrey, and Dalvin Cook. Now, there is going to be some debate in the comment section. Some people may say, Nick, that guy's not a bell cow running back, or Nick, this other running back that you didn't include is actually a bell cow running back. Now, again, that is kind of why I talked about at the beginning of the video how the definition is pretty loose. because some people may not consider some of these running backs to be bell cows. Other people may say that they're obviously bell cows. So again, it is definitely up to interpretation, at least in my book. So we'll begin with Jonathan Taylor, who is basically, him and Derrick Henry to me are the quintessential bell cow running backs in the NFL. If you were just to have to list two names, those would be the number one and the number two guys in my book. In 2021, Jonathan Taylor played in 17 games, finishing as the running back number one in half PPR and the running back number two in half PPR points per game, having 332 carries on the season, 19.5 per game, ranking number one at running back. 1,811 rushing yards, 106.5 per game, ranking number one at running back, 53 targets, 3.1 per game, 17th at running back, 40 receptions, 2.4 per game, ranking 21 at running back, 360 receiving yards, 21.2 per game, 13th at running back, and 20 total touchdowns, number one at the running back position. Most people will argue that even some of these guys that I will consider to be bell cow running backs later on in the video, like Dalvin Cook, may not actually be bell cow running backs in their book because they didn't get 300 plus carries. That is a number that I've seen thrown out there as to what people consider to be bell cow running backs. So Jonathan Taylor, definitely, he fills out all of the things in your head when you think of a bell cow running back. He is all of those. He fits all of those. He checks off all the fucking boxes. Jonathan Taylor is fantastic, and there is no reason to believe that the team is just going to strip him of these bell cow abilities. Now, he's not a running back that you're ever really going to be seeing getting 70, 80 targets on a season. I just think that you can basically throw that notion out the window because that does not seem like it is going to happen. Even if there was to be an injury to running backs behind him, it just seems like they're always going to throw someone else in there, maybe on third down to catch a couple of balls throughout the season, and Jonathan Taylor will just never be that guy hanging 100 receptions on the season like some other running backs can. But at the end of the day, that doesn't matter at all when you're seeing 300 plus carries and you're able to get over 1,800 rushing yards. Jonathan Taylor, now a lot of people will talk about how regression is bound to happen, right? When you run 300 times, the tread's going to come off the tires, right? If you're talking about dynasty fantasy football, people will think that since Jonathan Taylor is a bell cow running back, and since bell cow running backs are not as popular in the NFL now, that the tread's going to fall off the tires, right? That this guy is just going to be fucking atrocious 5 years from now, 4 years from now, because they ran him into the dirt. And that makes no sense. It really doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know why people think that, because it's not like Jonathan Taylor was just seeing some out-of-worldly numbers, right? If he was carrying the ball 400, 500 times, then maybe he's going to break down. But we have seen running backs in the past, guys that I talked about earlier on in the video, put up 300 plus carries multiple seasons in a row throughout their career and still have very lengthy NFL careers. And that's without the modern medicine that we have today. So Jonathan Taylor is going to be a top end pick, probably the number one pick in a bunch of fantasy football drafts in 2022. And I truly do believe that he checks off all the boxes to be a bell cow running back, the next bell cow running back. And this guy might just be the quintessential bell cow running back, because Derrick Henry doesn't even fuck around with catching the football, right? Last year he had 20 targets, 18 receptions, nothing much, right? Nothing much. But where his value comes is in the rushing aspect of the game. In 2021, sadly, Derrick Henry did end up getting hurt, so he only played in 8 games on the season, which now, since there's 17 games, is less than half the games, finishing as running back 16 half PPR, and was the running back number one in half PPR points per game, because when this guy was on the field, he was unstoppable. There was no one, not a single soul on earth, who could stop Derrick Henry. He had 219 carries, 27.4 per game. Now, I understand that Jonathan Taylor had 332 carries on the season in 17 games. He had below 20 per game. Derrick Henry had over 27 carries per game, which is redonkulous. 937 rushing yards. This motherfucker would have probably eclipsed 2,000 rushing yards and would have had over 400 carries. He had 10 total touchdowns on the season, 8th at running back, 10 touchdowns in 8 games. This guy, like I said, was unstoppable. This guy, just like Jonathan Taylor, checks all of the boxes in terms of a bell cow running back. This guy, despite the fact that he's played in the NFL for a couple of seasons, the fact that he's getting up there in age, is still going to be the focal point in the Tennessee Titans offense until the wheels fucking fall off this guy. And the wheels on the Derrick Henry bus continue to go round and round, just like that song you learned in nursery school. The wheels on the bus go round and round. The wheels on the Derrick Henry train, there's no brake on the Derrick Henry train, okay? All gas, no brakes for Derrick Henry. This guy is probably going to, if he stays healthy, it wouldn't surprise me at all if he rushed for 2,000 yards in 2022, maybe even in 2023. That's just how good this man is. And like I said, the team loves to run the football. Their game plan is to run the ball down your fucking throat. They ran the ball 27.4 times per game just with Derrick Henry last season, and he is the workhorse running back. He is the bell cow running back. He is going to be seeing a majority of carries, and it is not even close. So for the Tennessee Titans, Derrick Henry is definitely a bell cow running back. But before we get into the next bell cow running back, I'd like to let you guys know about our sponsor of today's video. On the screen, as you can see, they've been on the screen the whole fucking time I've been recording this. Our sponsor, Underdog Fantasy, is known for their NFL best ball tournaments. However, Underdog does not stop there. Underdog has plenty of other contests for you to compete in, including live draft contests and pick'ems, which you can make up to 20 times your entry fee. 20 times your entry fee. Use promo code Awesemo on your screen right now. Promo code Awesemo to get a first match deposit bonus of up to $100. Make sure that you guys do go ahead and get started on Underdog Fantasy today. So back on into the video, the next bell cow running back to discuss here is Najee Harris, running back of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, things are obviously drastically different in Pittsburgh from 2022 to 2021, and things may change even more in the NFL draft. Going from Big Ben to Kissin' Titties Mitchell Trubisky and maybe Malik Willis or Matt Corral, some other quarterback, is going to be different for Najee Harris. But, this is a huge but like Nicki Minaj. The reason why I think that Najee Harris is still a bell cow running back is because of the system. The system by head coach Mike Tomlin is to create a bell cow workhorse running back. We've seen it with Le'Veon Bell. When Le'Veon Bell was out for smoking the loud, when he was out, they had another running back, D'Angelo Williams, step in and be the bell cow running back. When Le'Veon Bell decided to go ride jet skis in Miami and not play, we saw James Conner be the workhorse running back. And then James Conner leaves, flies on a plane to Arizona. And then they draft Najee Harris, and guess who the workhorse running back is? It's fucking Najee Harris. It's simple. The Pittsburgh Steelers, with Mike Tomlin, as long as Mike Tomlin is the head coach, which seems like permanently for the Pittsburgh Steelers, then Najee Harris, or whoever the number one running back is on the team, is going to be a bell cow running back. In 2021, in 17 games, he was the RB 4.5 PPR and the running back 9.5 PPR. He had 307 carries, 18.1 per game, ranking second at running back, 1,200 in rushing yards, 70.6 per game, ranking fourth at running back, 94 targets, 5.5 per game, first at running back, 74 receptions, 4.4 per game, number one at running back, 467 receiving yards, 27.5 per game, third at running back, and 10 total touchdowns, number 8 at running back. Which again, when you're looking at the numbers of Derrick Henry, it's beautiful. 10 total touchdowns. Derrick Henry had in 8 games. Najee Harris, 17 games, had 10 total touchdowns, which is not to demean Najee Harris. It's just to show how fucking good Derrick Henry was. But Najee Harris, to me, is definitely a bell cow running back. I would be shocked, regardless of who the quarterback is, you could throw me in at quarterback and he's going to have 300 carries. Maybe the target total goes under. Right? Because maybe the new quarterback, maybe Mitch Trubisky or whoever they draft, isn't as comfortable dumping the ball off to Najee Harris 90 plus times, right? Last year, it seemed like the only two people who were safe on Pittsburgh was Deontay Johnson and Najee Harris. Najee Harris could have 7 guys on him, and Big Ben's checking it down. Same thing with Deontay Johnson. It seems like they were just on the same wavelength, that same path. Big Ben and Deontay Johnson, Big Ben and Najee Harris. It seemed like even when Big Ben was playing terrible, like I'm talking about, it was hard to watch. Like he'd sack himself, throw the ball into the dirt, but then the next play, perfect dump off to Najee Harris, right? It just seemed like they had that perfect connection. So maybe things change with Kissin' Titties Trubisky or whoever they bring in quarterback in the terms of targets, but he's still going to be seeing 300 plus carries, and that's what you're looking for in a bell cow running back. He's very young. This is his second year in the NFL. The offensive line can't really be worse than it was last year. Najee Harris did play phenomenal with a bad offensive line, so I think in 2022, as well as in the future, if you're talking about Dynasty Fantasy Football, Najee Harris should be able to be a bell cow running back for a while in the future. Next up, we move to Christian McCaffrey, who is basically a mold of the guy that you would consider a bell cow running back if you add in the receiving factor, but he's also just a bell cow running back because he's going to see a million carries every single game. In 2021, sadly, he did end up getting hurt, and he only played in 7 games. He was the running back number 39 in half PPR and the running back number 8 in half PPR points per game. He had 99 carries, 14.1 per game. Now, these per game numbers, even the points per game finish, is definitely skewed. And I say this because there were multiple games last season that Christian McCaffrey played in, but he played like the first quarter and then got hurt. So that is obviously going to negatively impact his stats. He had 99 carries, 14.1 per game, ranking 51st at running back, 442 rushing yards, 63.1 per game, 47th at running back, 41 targets, 37 receptions, 343 receiving yards, and 2 total touchdowns. So last year was a bad year for Christian McCaffrey. 2020 as well, bad year for Christian McCaffrey because he was riddled with injuries. The thing is, if Christian McCaffrey is healthy, he could easily be the number 1, the best, by far and away, running back in the NFL. And it may not even be close. I'm talking about Derrick Henry might see 450 rushes, and Christian McCaffrey still takes a shit on this guy's chest in terms of fantasy football, and that is because of the receiving factor, as well as the fact that he is just going to be seeing so many carries every game. It seems like the Carolina Panthers, and this is something that I've discussed in a couple of videos on this channel, don't understand what to do with Christian McCaffrey. Because I understand when this guy's healthy, he puts up these crazy numbers. But the problem is, he's healthy, he gets hurt, and then the team doesn't ease him back in, right? They don't just put the tip in, just a little bit of Christian McCaffrey. No, they go full in, no lube, insert Christian McCaffrey in there, and just put him at the max. Say, fuck it, Christian. Here's 30 touches. Maybe 30 touches might sound absurd, but here's 25 touches. Why? This man was just on ice for 2 weeks. You throw him in there, he's going from doing nothing to doing everything, and then he gets hurt. Now, I'm not here to do this again because I've done this in so many videos and talking about how I'm not too sure I want to draft Christian McCaffrey in 2022, but there is no reason to debate. In my opinion, there's no way you can even debate that when Christian McCaffrey is healthy, he's a bell cow running back, and the volume is just insane. When you match the receiving upside with the rushing upside, he's a guy that could easily rush for 1,500 yards and get 1,000 receiving yards, and there's basically no other running back in the NFL that can do that. So overall, I'm a huge fan of Christian McCaffrey, but I am definitely worried about the injury history in the past. My final quote-unquote bell cow running back before we pivot into these guys are bell cow running backs, but you kind of have to add in the receiving factor to get them there. We got Dalvin Cook, running back of the Minnesota Vikings, 2021 stats, played in 13 games, running back 15.5 PPR, running back 11.5 PPR points per game, 249 carries, 19.2 per game, 5th at running back, 1,159 rushing yards, 89.2 per game, ranking 5th at running back, 49 targets, 3.8 per game, 26th at running back, 34 receptions, 2.6 per game, 30th at running back, 224 receiving yards, 17.4 per game, 37th at running back, and 6 total touchdowns, 27th at running back. Now, I will basically die on this hill, and I say it every single year. If you draft Dalvin Cook, you need to draft Alexander Mattison, because Alexander Madison's not going to be on the dynasty bell cow running back list, the redraft dynasty bell cow, or the redraft fantasy football bell cow running back list. But in reality, when Dalvin Cook gets whacked out of the game, when he gets hurt like he does every year, and I'm not trying to insult this guy, say he's brittle or something, but he misses games every year. Guess who comes in? Guess who answers the bell? It's Alexander Mattison. Alexander Mattison comes in, and he's basically, Dalvin Cook is Budweiser. Alexander Mattison is Bud Light. He's like the watered-down version of Dalvin Cook. But with the same amount of carries, he's just not as effective. So, in terms of bell cow running backs, Dalvin Cook definitely is that. Alexander Mattison barely sniffs the field, barely sniffs any playing time when Dalvin Cook is healthy. But when Dalvin Cook does miss, Alexander Madison's the bell cow. So that's why they're nice. They're a 1-2 punch, but not really. Because when you think of 1-2 punch running back, you're thinking, we got the big guy, the thumper, bam, first, second down, runs them through a wall. Third down, you got the small, fast guy, the thumper. You know, that you got the thumper, and then the little guy. And that's the 1-2. But in reality, they are kind of a 1-2 as well, because when Dalvin Cook gets hurt, you get hit with the fucking finishing move. You get hit with the people's elbow when Alexander Mattison comes in the game. So Dalvin Cook, definitely a bell cow running back in my book. But Nick, he didn't get 300 carries last year, you fucking idiot. He only played in 13 games. It's going to be my argument, my retort to that statement. So Dalvin Cook, if fully healthy, definitely a bell cow running back in my book. So he's going to be the final quote-unquote bell cow running back before we pivot into the bell cow running backs plus with the receiving factor. Now, there are going to be players that I don't talk about in today's video. One that comes to my head, Saquon Barkley. Nick, Saquon Barkley's a bell cow running back. But Nick, you included Christian McCaffrey, and Saquon hasn't been that good because he's been hurt. Maybe, but I just don't trust the fucking Giants. So that's why he's not in this video. Maybe he gets traded. And then maybe I'm very excited about Saquon Barkley. So now we move on to guys that are bell cow running backs if you add in the receiving factor. And we got a fine list here of 3 running backs. Moving on to this, first, we got Austin Ekeler. Now, if you guys haven't ended up enjoying thus far, like button, subscribe button, Twitter button, follow me on Twitter. I'd appreciate that. I love you guys all so much. Genuinely, I love making these videos, so I hope you guys do enjoy. So, Austin Ekeler of the LA Chargers, 2021 stats, plays in 16 games. Only game missed was because of the COVID. Playing 16 games, running back 2.5 PPR, 3.5 PPR points per game. He had 206 carries, 12.9 per game, ranking 14th at running back, 911 rushing yards, 56.9 per game, 12th at running back, 94 targets, 5.9 per game, number 1 at running back, 70 receptions, 4.4 per game, second at running back, 647 receiving yards, 40.4 per game, number 1 at running back, and 20 total touchdowns, number 1 at running back. So Ekeler, never going to be a guy that sees the workhorse running back level, bell cow running back level, 300 carries. That's just not going to happen. That's not going to happen. Why is that not going to happen? Because the Chargers realize that maybe let's not feed Austin Ekeler to the fucking wolves, right? Let's not risk putting him between the tackles. He's a smaller guy. Now, they're going to put him between the tackles, but they're not going to do it a shit ton of times, right? They're not going to rush this guy out there a million times when they know that keep him loose, Let him go out there. Then, hey, let's sub in Justin Jackson, whoever's behind him, right? And then we put Austin Ekeler back in, dump the ball off to him, hand him the ball, and boom, he's going to have a great fucking year. He's going to have a great season. He's going to have a great game. He could put the team on his back. He can score 3 touchdowns in a game. But he's just not going to be in there every single play. So technically, to some people, he's not a bell cow running back. But when you understand that the NFL is different now, this isn't the million touches O.J. Simpson, LaDainian Tomlinson, Barry Sanders. This isn't the NFL. That's not what it's like now. It used to be, but that's not what it's like now. So if you understand that, if you kind of contextualize that, that's a big word. But when you really understand how the game has changed, you have to consider Austin Ekeler, in my book, as a bell cow running back because he's going to see over 300 total touches. So that's just how I see it. But Nick, he didn't last year. He had only 280. Whatever, man. Pretty close in my book. Next up, we move to a very similar player to Austin Ekeler, and that is Alvin Kamara of the New Orleans Saints. In 2021, he played in 13 games, finishing as the running back 8.5 PPR and the running back number 5 in half PPR points per game. He had 240 carries on the season, 18.5 per game, ranking 6th at running back, 898 rushing yards, 69.1 per game. 0.1 off of being very nice, I like, with 69, number 14 at running back, 67 targets, 5.2 per game, ranking 6th at running back, 47 receptions, 3.9 per game, or 3.6 per game, I apologize, 9th at running back, 439 receiving yards, 33.8 per game, 7th at running back, and 9 total tugs, 14th at running back, so a very solid season out of Alvin Kamara. Now this year, we'll see Alvin Kamara with Jameis Winston. There's going to be no more of this bullshit Taysom Hill experience where Taysom Hill, and the issue with Taysom Hill is that this man would rather tap on his own chest, call his own number. I think he's number 7, I think. He'd rather run the ball himself instead of dumping it off to Alvin Kamara, which fucks up Alvin Kamara. Maybe it works for the Saints offense. I mean, he's not terrible, but with Jameis Winston, there's more dump-offs. There's more opportunity to actually get the ball to just hand it to him because Taysom, again, he'll do some fakery, a bit of trickery on your ass, and he fakes it to Alvin Kamara, and he says, psych, and he runs it himself, right? You're not going to see that as much with Jameis Winston, right? Jameis Winston might be good at running away when he steals some crabs, but he's not great at running really in the NFL at game speed. So Alvin Kamara is going to be seeing a lot more opportunity in my book without Taysom Hill and with Jameis Winston as the clear starter on the team. So I think, and even if he was to go down, technically, but Nick, what happens if he goes down? It's going to be the Taysom Hill experience again. Now it's going to be Andy Dalton. who's the backup now, which is phenomenal for Alvin Kamara. So I really do like Alvin Kamara a lot more this season. I feel very comfortable with him. He was a running back 5.5 PPR points per game, running back 8.5 PPR last year. Definitely not your prototypical bell cow running back, but with that receiving upside, he truly is, in my opinion, what should be the new age bell cow running back, which is definitely a discussion that you could have in the comments section. Maybe you aren't with me like, oh, Nick, a bell cow running back has to have just the carries, and you know what, that's fine as well. But to me, I think you gotta sprinkle in Salt Bay style, the receiving value as well. Now, next up, we move to the final bell cow running back to discuss in today's video, and that's going to be DeAndre Swift, running back of the Detroit Lions. In 2021, he played in 13 games, finishing as the running back number 19 in half PPR and the running back number 13 in half PPR points per game, playing in 13 games on the season, having 151 carries, 11.6 per game, 30th at running back, 617 rushing yards, 47.5 per game, ranking 30th at running back, 78 receptions, 6.0 per game, ranking 4th at running back, 62 receptions, 4.8 per game, 4th at running back, 452 receiving yards, 34.8 per game, 5th at running back, and 7 total touchdowns, number 21 at running back. Now, Detroit is by far and away the worst situation any of these running backs are in on this list, and it's not even close. But DeAndre Swift has shown that he is really the guy there, that they could bring in another running back to be behind him, and that he is the lead workhorse guy on that team. He's not a guy that's going to be seeing, I'd be shocked to see him get 230 carries next season, but I wouldn't be shocked to see him get 100 targets. So again, you have to understand that he's a bell cow running back because of the receiving upside and not because of the rushing upside. But again, with receptions being so valuable in fantasy football, right? Half PPR and PPR is the normal. Only fucking grandpas play in standard now. Nick, I play in standard, you motherfucker. Again, it's a joke, right? People still play standard. I play in a standard league, but a lot of people, that's more the prehistoric thought process. Now, a lot of people play in full PPR and PPR now. So to me, you really do have to bake in the receiving value when determining a bell cow running backs. Thank you guys all so much for watching today's video. If you did end up enjoying today's video, please make sure that you do hit that like button as well as that subscribe button down below. Make sure you guys check out our sponsor. Again, Underdog Fantasy, promo code Awesemo. Again, promo code Awesemo to get a first deposit match bonus of up to $100. Hope you guys did end up enjoying. I love you guys all, and I hope you have a great rest of your guys' day. As always, guys, goodbye.